You know, I planned this whole month of fighting game reviews where I was going to talk about some of the classics of yesteryear and see how well they hold up today. And then I played, well, you know. Yeah, that review is not very good, and I probably should go back and take another look at that game, but I just can't get past the evil.
Don't forget there are many gods, all over the world. Don't forget there are many gods, all over.
It's a game so bad it gave me a horrible case of evil acne. I haven't had a breakout this bad since I was 16 years old looking for a date to go to homecoming. I didn't find one. So I went LARPing instead. I have some old high school choices to reminisce and look back upon and question now, don't I? You know, in my Shaq Fu review where I named 10 fighting games that were worse than Shaq Fu, well, I'm considering an 11th spot just for Street Fighter 1. I mean, at least the moves in Shaq Fu fucking work if you hit the buttons correctly, and at least the animation's pretty. Yeah, okay, a lot of the mechanics in Shaq Fu were actually problems in Street Fighter 1 where you constantly mash buttons and hit your opponent in the corner and keep teabagging them until they fall down dead. But you know what? At least I could do a Shakuriken in Shaq Fu if I do it properly. Good luck trying to throw a Hadouken in Street Fighter 1 without tearing your hair out beforehand. Seriously, that move hardly ever worked. And yeah, about that Shaq Fu review, how is it that years go by with numerous websites and no-name internet reviewers? Hey! Absolutely tearing the game to pieces with review after review and list after list and site after site, and yet when I do it and I just casually mention that there had better not be a Shaq Fu 2, what happens?
Will we ever get to see a Shaq Fu 2?
Actually, yes, coming soon.
Really?
And the graphics is crazy. I'm back.
I am either magic, unlucky, or Shaq himself managed to come across my videos late one night drunk on vodka, and he decided to spite me because I didn't like his crappy-ass soda. If Shaq Fu 2 actually does come to fruition, I'm expecting Shaq himself to bust down my door and pour strawberry cream soda into my anus. Upside down. Anyway, previous stuff out of the way, I mentioned that Street Fighter 2 is one of the most influential fighting games of all time, but when it didn't have a rivalry in the arcades with Fatal Fury, it had a console rivalry with today's subject, Mortal Kombat. And as you can see, I'm a fan. I had a strange, isolated childhood. I never grew up with Street Fighter, and I only knew 2 people who actually had a Super Nintendo. Pretty much everyone else I knew had a Sega Genesis and was in love with Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter was never on the lips of anybody I knew, actually. So where I lived, it was either you liked Mortal Kombat, or you were a duty head. Fuck you! But the battle between Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat still wages to this day on forums. I like both games, but I think the war between Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat ended whenever Capcom put out Street Fighter 4 and NetherRealms remade Mortal Kombat. The fight's over, people! Flawless victory! But anyway, we're not here to talk about the awesomeness of Mortal Kombat 9, or the shittiness of Street Fighter 4. Oh, but believe you me, its day will come. And when it comes, the hounds of hell will be unleashed upon thy nary ass! We're here to discuss the OG of the Bloodbath fighters. Oh yeah, and much like my Street Fighter review, we're not going to talk about the story because let's face it, it's a late 80s, early 90s fighting game. What story? A bunch of people get together for some reason and try to beat the fuck out of each other. I mean, yeah, Mortal Kombat has more of a story than Street Fighter 1 does, but still, it's just not worth covering. On Nito, we get a little backstory or some philosophy. Let's check it out. The word code has many different definitions. The Shaolin martial arts term it is governed by a system of rules of conduct, an ethical code. So in other words, a code of ethics. Thank you for over-explaining it. The combatants respect each other as warriors, no matter what degree of hatred they have for one another. Oh yeah, I guess Scorpion Sub-Zero didn't get the memo in the new game. A code of honor! Another type of code could be defined as an arbitrary system of symbols or letters for transmitting messages. A secret code. Oh yeah, I just figured mine out. Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Son of a bitch. Mortal Kombat adheres to many codes, but does it contain one? So deep. I just love how this ancient tablet just has Mortal Kombat trademark right there. You see it? See it, little TM? I guess a stone tablet is a majority shareholder.
Actually, I'm the majority stockholder.
You're also a majority douchebag, so get walking before I beat the crap out of you.
Alright then, we got 7 characters to pick from, but hey, usually I'd be all pissy about this, but, you know, since it's an early game in the first of the series, I'm gonna be a little lighter on it, and, hey, wait a second, what? I didn't know I had a time limit for this! Hey, you know what would be nice to have? That way you could tell me if I had a time limit to pick a character before the thing just threw me into a tournament? Some kind of clock. Alright, let's get straight to the fighting. It's not bad and the hit detection is good, but it only really feels like you're hitting an opponent whenever you do a heavy hit, which shakes the camera. Most everything else just feels a little floaty. I don't quite know how to explain it, but just look at the punches here. Yeah, I'm not really feeling I'm hitting him, even though I am. As for combos, well, the closest thing this game has to combos are this little punch chain you can get your opponent in until they either fall down and die, or they just back out of it. Wow. Way to break new records and set some new standards midway. What? Just because I like Mortal Kombat doesn't mean I can't make fun of its first game. Surprisingly enough, there's not a whole lot to talk about in the first game of Mortal Kombat. It's really just okay. Oh, wait, hang on, I know. This is Mortal Kombat, right? We gotta see a fatality. Well then. Alright, I know if you have a Game Shark, you can unlock the more gory things in this game. But you know what? I don't have a Game Shark. And you know something else? If you had the Super Nintendo version, you couldn't unlock them at all because Nintendo had a family-friendly codes, and now you know why I was talking about Super Nintendo earlier. Neater!
What Nintendo don't.
I guess other things would be the graphics. They're great. The digitized actors look fantastic, and it works. The sound is good, the music is good, but again, the combat is just okay, and that's what you're playing this game for. Again, sorry for the short review, but that's really all there is to Mortal Kombat. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just okay. It works for what it is, and on top of that, it just doesn't seem to break any molds, actually. Sorry, but for groundbreaking titles, Mortal Kombat surprisingly doesn't hold up that well. All it really did was lay a foundation for better games to come, and you know what? They fucking got this and that. Better graphics, more gore without the use of a code, better combat, better controls, better fatalities, just overall better games. So yeah, we got that. And on top of that, it actually set a foundation for the ESRB rating system. And you're gonna love this. I'm gonna take you back in a time machine for a second to before I ever even played video games, and I was just a wee little baby this year. I'm gonna show you a special report by Fox News on Mortal Kombat. Try to hold back your tears. Tears of laughter, of course, because you're not gonna cry tears of sadness over watching these idiots.
Carol Lynn joins us live now from Northridge with more on that story. Carol?
Here it is, Bob, behind me. It's called Mortal Kombat. We're going to talk to Aaron Brandis here about the game. Aaron, how does it work?
Well, basically, you pick a couple characters, you do maneuvers on the joysticks and buttons, you do moves, and
then
whoever
what are you trying
wins.
to get to? Fatality?
Nah, there's a master guy you got to beat at the end. Fatalities are just what happens if you're really brutal to your opponent. You get an opponent, you can rip off his head or something like that.
Sounds like a pretty thrilling game, and this is the kind of violence that critics are pretty worried about.
Are you laughing yet? No? Just wait.
Cold-blooded murder is making Mortal Kombat the most popular video game in history.
Fox News, ever opposing violence in video games by showing a guy who rip off a dude's head and spinal cord. And it dangles.
Kids relish their victory and their bloody choice. Should they pull out their opponent's heart, or simply rip his head off just to see his spinal cord dangle in a pool of blood? How do you feel about cutting his head off? After a $10 million advertising campaign, Mortal Kombat, debuting in home video today, is expected to sell 2 million copies at $50 a pop. A horrifying possibility for parents who can't believe the game makers are fantasizing about decapitation and murder.
I don't think they'll have this at home, no.
You don't think so?
A little bit
you
too
look
violent.
a little startled.
Yeah, it's a little too violent, I think.
Oh, don't worry. Just keep watching. It's coming.
That's pretty bad. That's just plain gross. Furthermore, advanced technology allows digitized video of real martial arts actors, making the action look real and not as cartoony.
Not as cartoony, as they show Sub-Zero doing 10-foot flips from a standing position.
In fact, Mortal Kombat so shocked the managers at a nationwide arcade chain that they tried a sanitized version of the game. Instead of chopping the opponent's head off, he simply disappears. Sales dropped 40%.
They came up and said, what'd you do to the game? It's no fun anymore.
Kids are saying chill out to worried parents.
I think TV personally influences more than a video game. A video game is a video game.
The bottom line, parents wonder if kids can separate fantasy from the real thing.
Wait until they get out in a situation where they're fighting, and then they'll think about this and try to make it real.
That concerned parent is right. That's why whenever I start going into mixed martial arts, whenever I'm into a fight, I'm gonna try to freeze a guy with my ice powers. Am I the only person looking at the arcade machine to her right? Total Carnage? What the hell is that?
As adults buy more video games, I mean, it's a big money market, $50 to $60 a pop. Plus, some of the critics say, or they at least concede, that parents have to be there in order to pay for the game, so at least there's some discretion there, and game makers are also talking about a new rating system similar to the movies. We'll see what happens. I'm Carol Lynn reporting live from Northridge. Back to you.
Okay, that's the entire segment. It's hilarious if you do this. Just juxtapose their comments toward the old Mortal Kombat and compare them to the new one.
I don't think they'll have this at home, no.
You don't think so?
A little bit
you
too
look
violent.
a little startled.
Yeah, it's a little too violent, I think.
That's pretty bad. That's just plain gross.
Wait until they get out in a situation where they're fighting, and then they'll think about this and try to make it real.
I wonder how many of them had a heart attack at the thought of that. Well, just so you know, if you die of a heart attack or Kano ripping it out, even though your body may be dead, Mortal Kombat lives on. Till next time, people.